open now. I don't think we need to give it too long, so we can get underway with the presentation. So if you joined today, then you probably already know what Microsoft Teams is, and you're interested in looking at what Microsoft Teams Voice is. The sort of the aim of the webinar is to dive into what Microsoft Teams Voice is, how it might work for your business, what various options are available, and that's kind of where we're heading. So I'll skip onto the agenda. So we're going to have a quick introduction to NGC networks. Then it's always nice to have a bit of background about what the new normal is at the moment, the hybrid working situation, what Microsoft Teams is, what Microsoft Teams Voice is, the features and the benefits of Microsoft Teams Voice, and then which option is right for your business, I guess, by sort of showing you the different options, explaining the pros and cons of each one, and then it's kind of up to you to decide. And I'll leave you with some passing questions as to what it is that might present Teams as a good option for you and your business, obviously. So who am I? Why would you listen to me? I've spent the last, I think, 15 years working in the telecoms industry, the last 5.5 years at NGC. Did an MBA research project with Leeds Beckett University for probably a year, looking at the telecoms industry in the UK, where it's going, what's changing, the technologies that are coming up, how it affects businesses, and certainly where the growth in the sector is going to come from. So there's a few bits that I've picked up along the way that hopefully will help me impart some knowledge onto people to help you with your businesses. So who are NGC Networks? Very good question. We were founded in 1999. We're based in Wakefield, West Yorkshire. We've got offices in Manchester and London as well. So we've got a nice presence around the country as and when needed. We have a strapline of simplifying communication so that you can get on with growing your business. Very, very good marketing fluff. It's true. You guys are not telecom specialists. We are the telecom specialists, same as we're not an insurance, we're not an architect. If we need a building, we're not going to go and try and figure it out ourselves. We don't want to. We would go and speak to a professional that would help us do the job. And that's exactly what you want. You want to pay somebody like NGC to work with you to explain how everything works, what to do, and sort of talk you through the best options. You just want to get on with growing your own business. So you don't need the interest of what telecoms is. You kind of just want it to fix itself and work. So what do we do specifically products-wise? Business telephony, as I just said. The customer contact center solutions is the big one at the moment. Has been through the last 18 months. It's accelerated. Our industry has been moving towards it for a while, and I'm sure you've all seen it when you contacting people from a consumer point of view, and probably inside your own business, where you're looking at how your customers communicating with you, how are you communicating with them, what your suppliers doing. A lot of things have moved to web chat, a lot of things have moved to automation. I know, for example, I was speaking to EE about an annoying home broadband fault, so apologies if anything goes wrong. And they sent me an SMS message which activated a video, which meant I could show them the router rather than trying to explain what was going on. So just the way in which we communicate, there's lots of bolt-on products that have been coming along and working alongside everything. And the other ones on there that are important at the moment are audio and video conferencing solutions. So I'm sure several of you in your businesses have been setting up boardroom cameras, huddle room cameras, as people call it, to have meetings with people that are not in the office, or your suppliers, because let's face it, why does the supplier, or why do you need to drive somewhere that's 3 hours there and back to have an hour meeting when you could have the hour meeting on Teams and have three meetings either side of it? It doesn't make sense anymore. In certain circumstances, it does, obviously, but yeah. So yeah, I won't blab on too much about what we do, but I just thought it was worth explaining who we are as a company and what we do. So as I mentioned, it's worth having a bit of background on why we're talking about Teams. So I'm going to fly through this because that's not what you're here to listen about, but it's always nice to have the background. So the new normal, hybrid working, what is it? For most of us, an office used to look like this. I mean, our office still does look like that, but it's one of those where we're all there. I'm sure lots of you are the same. Most of you are in the office. You might have the odd outlier working at home, and you kind of figured it out. And now it looks a lot like this. There's Some people in the office, some people not in the office, some people on the road, some people in a coffee shop. Salespeople always did that anyway, and they just kind of figured it out, and we just kind of had to guess what we thought they were doing during the day. We've all moved to a situation where everybody needs to speak to each other all the time from different locations. So this presents challenges for you, your business, your employees, your customers, and culture, one of those. There's less of the water cooler moments. I certainly know when I'm in the office, I think impart a lot more knowledge onto people, whether they want it or not. A bit like this webinar, and share information, the socialization, things like after work beers might have disappeared in some organisations. I'm guessing a lot of it's coming back. Evolved working practices, which I guess is what we're here to talk about. People are in back-to-back meetings, video calls, communicating internally, communicating with suppliers, how are you tracking all this communication, who's doing what in your organisation. It'd be nice to see it. You kind of know it's happening, but it would be nice to see what's going on, which means you do need the right tools for the job. I'm sure everyone had the fun of setting up VPNs and getting cloud running and going paperless and everything else that happened when we all got sent home, surprisingly. And that's where Microsoft Teams comes in. So what is Microsoft Teams? First answer is popular. If you look at the stats on there, November 2019, pre-pandemic, 20 million daily active users. Went up quite quickly to 75. April this year, these are Microsoft stats, so I haven't got the most recent ones. So April, 145 million. I think we all wish that we had a business model that was that rapid at growing and that profitable. But yeah, that's kind of where Microsoft Teams is. It was in the right place at the right time. Might not have done the right thing on day one, but they've certainly been working on it. So what exactly is it? It's Microsoft Unified Communications product. And in the tech industry, we love jargon. So what is a unified communications product? For most of you, you might not know what that means. You've probably heard people like us saying, come and buy a unified communications product. And you're going, what exactly is that? It's everything you'd expect. So it's audio, video, web conferencing, all in one place, file sharing, calendar integration, instant messaging, gifs and memes. We all love an office GIF. I'm sure we've all seen the news articles where the wrong ones have been sent to the wrong groups and people end up in a HR nightmare. So let's avoid that one. For those of you that don't know, Microsoft Teams at admin level does have a safe search, which you can switch on to stop things like that happening. You can integrate to multiple apps, and it's an integrated calling solution, which is kind of what you're all here to talk about today. So I will slow the pace down a bit. I wanted to rattle through everything because I appreciate you've all got busy days and you are here to talk about Teams voice specifically. If you don't know a huge amount of what I've just rattled through, fire some questions through or drop me a note and we can have a separate call to go through the details of it. But I know most people will have registered to understand what Teams voice is and how it works for their business. But I'm more than happy to discuss various different things with you. So just let me know. And I should say, I will open for Q&A at the end, but if you've got questions as we're going along, fire them into the chat and I'll pick them up at the end because I know I would forget questions. So just pop them in there. I'll pick them up when we get to the end. So what is Microsoft Teams voice? It's quite simple. You make and receive external calls from the Teams app. So if you're using Teams at the moment, or if you ever have used Teams, you'll have seen the dial pad. You'll have phoned people internally. You'll have clicked on someone's name and dialed them. It's essentially that, but you can dial outside of the business. So think normal phone system that you've always used in the history. You click on someone's name, you search their address book, you make the call pops up on the screen. You get the various options, so you can click on the little 3 dots and you can transfer the call. So you can transfer a call to your colleagues. You can see your inbound calls in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see on this particular one, I was testing our main number. So it's our main number that was phoning. So I was part of a group where the main number would phone after pressing option 1. It came to me. I was in the support team for argument's sake. And then I wanted to transfer the call. So I could transfer the call. I had the various options where I could transfer with a consultation and say, Nikki, I've got a call for you. Would you like to speak to this person? And send the call through, or I could just blind transfer and send the call straight through, no hassle. And then you can set up comprehensive call flows, so it's kind of what I mentioned. So this one you can actually see, I called it the NGC support queue. So once you press one, it came through as the support. What I'd set that to do is to ring me and 3 other people for 15 seconds. And if it didn't get through to these people in the 15 seconds, then it would move on to someone else for 15 seconds. And if that didn't happen, it'd go through to a group voicemail. So everybody would see the voicemail in their app. Everyone would get an email with voicemail. And it's the straightforward stuff that you would expect from a phone system. It does it. You will have heard some people say that Microsoft Teams is not a fully fledged phone system. We, in the industry, we've always worked with a company called Avaya, who have always reasonably been at the top end of the market. So you could class a lot of our engineers as telecom snobs. So they're used to a system doing everything under the sun. It might not be that you need it to do everything under the sun. For example, me as a remote worker, when I'm at home, I just want to make and receive calls. There are lots of people that just want to make and receive calls, put themselves on DND, pick up voicemail. It does all of that out of the box. I'll talk about the different options of how you can get more out of it if you need more out of it, and if indeed it's right for your business. So we'll move on to that now. In 3 slides, I've gone through as simple as Teams is for making calls, receiving calls, answering calls. It's as simple as that. There's nothing wizardry in it. I haven't shown you a live demo intentionally because I always make the joke of never work with kids, animals, or live demos because chances are they'll go wrong, especially when you're working at home. So I've got nice pasted on screenshots of it working perfectly, and that's how it works. If you would like to see a live demo, drop me a note, send me an email, give me a call. We can book something in. If it's something where you really want to look at it, we can certainly get you in the office. We've got Teams handsets in our boardroom where you can test the calls and the Teams apps running on the calls. We've got the big fancy cameras where it points at you and it picks up all the audio in the room and the camera can move around to whoever's talking. So we've got everything under the sun. We can run you through it. But I didn't want to teach anyone how to suck eggs in terms of how to make and receive a call on Teams. The only addition is the phone numbers are there and you can speak to people externally. It's not rocket science. So, yeah, in 3 slides, you've told me, Andrew, I want Teams voice. What next? What options have you got? And what options have Microsoft got? Quite simple. Microsoft calling plans is the first one. So if you want to work with Microsoft directly, you can go on the Teams admin portal if you understand what you're doing, or speak to a provider, work on the Teams admin portal. You pick the plan that you want, you pay for the license, you top up the minutes with a credit card, the annoying bit, and that's it, you're away. You put some numbers in, you let Microsoft figure everything out on the back end, and that's one option. Option number 2 is called direct routing. Direct routing is where you activate the back end of the Microsoft Teams voice to speak to a telecoms provider. So you work with somebody like NGC. You can also use the direct routing to activate the back end to connect to your existing phone system, which lots of people are doing now. It seems to be the more popular route from people that we're speaking to is they've got an asset that they want to connect to. They've got people in the office, they've got people at home. They want the home workers on Teams, they want the people in the office on the phone system. They've paid, let's say, 20 grand for this phone system 5 years ago. Don't want to throw it in the bin? Fine. We don't want you to throw it in the bin. Connect Teams to it. People that want Teams can be on Teams. People that don't want to be on Teams don't have to be on Teams. Again, you can use direct routing to connect to a new communication system. So let's say, as I was mentioning earlier on in the presentation about contact center solutions. So you might say, I'm not a call center, but there might be 5 or 10 of you in the office, and you might now be picking up messages from customers that are coming in via SMS, via social media. And it's a pain to look at all these channels that are coming at you and say, right, has anyone checked Facebook today? Has anyone checked Instagram today? Do we have any SMSs on the shared phone that we put around the office? You can plug all those things into one system for a reasonably low cost a month per user. And then you can connect that to Teams as well. So you can kind of, if you're looking at new technology, you bolt it to Teams. You've got old technology, you bolt it to Teams. If you just want to use Teams on its own, you can do that, as long as you understand the limitations of what is available and what isn't available. For those of you who are quite savvy and have seen the media and keep up with the Microsoft press, which probably not that many people because it's a bit boring, Microsoft are launching Microsoft Operator Connect. details are limited at the moment. They're just saying that you can connect it to a provider directly. How it's that different to direct routing, I'm not entirely sure, but the way it's pitched is you'll be able to speak to somebody like BT through your Microsoft Teams admin portal and say, I would like 10 users to use BT, please. Get me some numbers. Very similar to the Microsoft Direct thing. I think they've realized they're not a telecoms operator network. Why not connect with the people that already do it? So a few of our suppliers are doing that. It's in beta trial at the moment. Microsoft are launching it quite soon. I don't know that much more than that. It will give you the same features that Teams gives you. So if you do want to know more on that, as and when we know more on that, we will be sharing it. Microsoft's quite sparse with details on it, but I don't think it's anything too exciting for now. So they're the options. I'll go through the options in a bit more detail. So Microsoft calling plans, as I've gone through, you can easily switch it on if you know what you're doing as a Teams administrator, which some of you might have that internal resource. You might be working with an IT provider. It's something that we can help with. You can switch it on depending on the volume of minutes you want. You put the credit card details in. If you run out of minutes, you put more credit card details in, which is just, it's annoying. I'll be honest. I've had to use it, and I would much rather get a phone bill at the end of the month with my inclusive minutes, as I do with my mobile phone bill. And that's just what we're used to in the industry, and I think a lot of people are used to that. So the credit card thing is a bit weird. You can put your numbers into it. You can deploy it in the cloud. So it's fairly low touch. You do need some Teams admin experience on it, and then you're kind of aware. You do get a limited feature set because you do only get what Teams has out of the box. There's nothing additional on it. And even though it's Teams out of the box, it's still not the easiest thing in the world to administer. You do need someone that understands Microsoft Teams admin portal. It's not just a case of just click it and add it. There are various products on the market that are a lot easier to set up as a business when you don't understand telecoms, where you're just clicking and adding users. So don't be fooled by anyone that's saying this is the easiest thing in the world. The people that are selling it to you might not even understand it that well. So it's one of those. I'm happy to answer questions on it. I'm not saying don't use it. It might be a perfect fit. I just want to make sure you've got the limitations. That's the aim of the call, is to show you the good and the bad of each option. Certainly not a sales pitch. That's not where I'm at. It's the Leeds Digital Festival. The point is to educate people on what's out there. So the next option is direct routing. I went quite in depth into this on the first slide when I was talking through the different options, but you basically direct routing, you hook up Microsoft Teams to a provider like NGC, like BT, like whoever else you speak to on a daily basis that might have put your phone system in for you a few years ago, or even 12 months ago, or even in the last 6 months, and you're thinking, well, I don't want to rip it out, but I kind of want to use Teams. So you switch on the direct routing side of things, or somebody switches it on for you. It is a bit more complicated to set up and administer. Again, you would expect this to be done by either a trained individual in your organization, in an IT support company, or in a telecoms company like NGC. You do get more features and flexibility. You're working with a telecoms export for things like number porting. I don't know if any of you, I would imagine many of you have moved office or tried to do something with your telephone numbers. They don't always like to follow you. It's often quite a difficult process. I'm sure if you've done it once, you'll have learned the lessons, like moving house, where you make sure you phone up a month or two in advance. You don't phone on the day and say, oh, we're moving today. Can you bring our phone number, please? People like us, if we're having the conversations with you, we'll make sure that we're pushing you along the lines rather than just letting you come to us on D-Day and say we need the numbers moving. You can bring in more features. As I was saying, you use direct routing to connect Teams to your phone system, so you can retain your existing asset. As I mentioned, if you paid a lot of money for a phone system not that many years ago, and it's doing the right thing for you, but you've got some users at home, you've maybe got a director who's decided that Teams is the best thing in the world and they want to use Teams for their phone. Fine, connect it to Teams, let them use Teams for their phone. Doesn't mean everyone in the office, in operations, in finance has to use it. You can have some people on it, some people not on it. You can connect it to the existing phone system. So the screens I showed you earlier on, where you pick who you want to call, you can pick who you want to call and it can phone the phone system, for example. It can phone the warehouse phone. It can ring a bell in the warehouse. It can do everything you would expect a normal phone system to do, but your Teams is your interface to speak to the outside world, which if you're at home, for example, as I am at the moment, and Teams is where you're doing your collaboration, file sharing, you're running webinars, it is easier to just click a button to phone someone that might be in the office. But for them, it's easier that they're using their phone because they might not always be at their desk and they don't want to miss a call that might have been ringing on their locked PC. They want to hear their phone ringing, but you want to be phoning them from Teams. So it's quite simple. It's a good way to split the bill. So instead of saying, right, Teams is the way forward, you can trial Teams on a few users. If it's not right, you've not really lost anything. There's a bit of integration that's been done. It's pretty straightforward stuff from our point of view, or somebody else's point of view as an integrator to set up for you. And I don't like the phrase, but you can sweat your existing asset. I don't know why sweat has to be the word there, but it is. You can use the existing features and keep the same numbers. It's kind of along those lines. As I mentioned, if you want things like enhanced reporting, call recording, CRM integration, things like that, everything needs to be connected to everything now. I know internally in our office, I recently moved from managing the operations team to looking after marketing and managing the operations teams and the sales teams. You want everybody to be connected to everything. So you want click to dial, you want CRM pops. So it might be beneficial for you. I would say it will be beneficial for you if you're using a CRM system for it to be connected to your phone system. There's lots of time savings and efficiencies to be had there. So yeah, if you're looking at a new system, you can connect Teams to it if you want. You can buy both at the same time, or you can just say, right, we're looking at telecom system XYZ. This is the reasons why we want it. Some users would like to use Teams. Can I bolt these users to it? Chances are yes, you can. Again, you don't have to move to fully Teams. That's kind of the theme of the presentation is Teams is there. It's great. I love it. I don't really use anything else, but I am connected to all our other office systems through the back end. So Microsoft Direct Routing versus Microsoft Teams versus Microsoft Direct, I should say. You get a lot more with Direct Routing. You like my little weighted scales. So you work with telecoms experts. Fraud monitoring and protection is a good one. So Microsoft don't really do any of that. They're not a telecoms expert. We have algorithms running that check all your calls to make sure that you've got 9,000 calls going out in 5 minutes to a number in Azerbaijan that it doesn't look legit. The system will go, that doesn't look legit. Let's bar that. Let's phone the customer. Let's say, is that the right thing? Whereas Microsoft would just send you a bill at the end of the day, or use up all your credit card top up, as it may be. And you get a lot more features using direct routing, working with a third-party provider. You can connect it to a new phone system, an existing phone system. You can have some users on it, some users not on it, and you get more features. So you get things like call reporting and call recording. There's just a few things on there. So disaster recovery is a good one. If you're not relying on Microsoft Direct, you can at network level, and by network level, I mean you can log into a portal, you can point your numbers automatically to different places. So I can say, as mine set up like this, it can't reach Teams, for example. And we all know Microsoft says Teams doesn't go down, but we all know Teams goes down. We've all been sitting there when suddenly nothing works. You go on the Microsoft website and it says Teams is working fine. So you're like, yeah, someone's lying. And if that's the case, if the number that you were dialing for me, so my leads number, couldn't see Teams, couldn't get through, automatically phone my mobile, automatically phone another phone in the office. It's quite simple. It's stuff that we've all been used to for years, and we all rely on, but you can have it with Microsoft Teams, which you don't get out of the box with Microsoft. There's a couple of other bits on there, like hunt group and call queuing and announcements. A lot of people, if you've looked at Teams, you've probably spoken to someone that's told you that there's no call reporting in there, there's no call recording in there. Largely that's true. We do work with providers who have really good call reporting platforms now that are attached to Microsoft Teams. Fairly inexpensive to deploy. Again, we can help you set these up and manage these for you. But all the stuff that you've all been used to, so your answered calls, your inbound summaries, going into itemized calls, looking at the location that your calls have come from, who's answering calls, who's not answering calls, it's all there. You can get the call recording. So you can search your call recordings as you would expect, by user, by time, by number. It's just all there now. It's not in the Microsoft website. It's all attached to it through a portal. So I'm just cruising through a few slides where you see that this is just one of the providers we work with, where you can bolt it to it, and you just see a lot more stats. User adoption is quite a good one. So I mentioned right at the start of the call that we've all got people working all over the place, and we've all met an old MD that, apologies if there's any on the call, but an old MD that if they can't see someone in the office, then they assume they're not working. You can have the flexibility and the tools here to see what they're doing. So on a day-to-day basis, on a user basis, you can see who's had meetings today, who's sending IM today, who's doing what today, where's your adoption, who's sharing files. You add them all up. Instead of going, right, did Andrew make 50 calls today? Andrew didn't make 50 calls today, he's not been productive. You can actually see all the rest of what I've been doing. So I worked on a document for 6 hours. I was speaking to someone in a meeting for 3 hours. You can see the whole piece of the pie without me physically being in front of you to say, right, what were you actually doing? And yeah, so it's all there to see. That's just an example of some itemized calls if you're interested in the itemized calls. So which option's right for your business? It's a great question. None of them fit everything. They all do fit everything between them. So it's worth asking yourself the question, specifically, what do you want to do with Microsoft Teams? Is it just that it's Microsoft Teams and everyone else is using Microsoft Teams, so you want to use Microsoft Teams? If that's the case, it's worth asking a few more questions. Speak to some users about what are you going to gain from it other than the fact that it's Microsoft Teams, don't want to use it. Do you already use it? If you don't, then is it the best platform for you? There's various platforms out there and it's not the cheapest. It's certainly not. I know everybody says it's included in the cost, but once you bolt on the cost of the phone system license with Microsoft, and then you're paying a third party as well, or you're paying Microsoft for the calling plans, you're up at the price of you could have bought something else from scratch. So if you are going from scratch, I would advise you to look around at what fits your business, not just go to Microsoft Teams because you saw it advertised in front of Sky Movies. Will it integrate with your existing phone system and communications platform is a great question, because if you do want to test it, or if you do want to try a few users, or like I mentioned earlier on, if you've got a couple of people that have the sway to say, I want Teams, and you're kind of sitting there and going, well, it doesn't work for the rest of the business, you put them on Teams, let them connect to the rest of the business. It's quite easy. What kind of reporting do you want from it? So that's where you need to speak to somebody like us about the products that work with it. So the call reporting and call recording out the box, Microsoft are not going to give you any other fun stuff that you need to do for your business. And it's not even rocket science stuff. It's so if you've got a call queue that comes off the back of an auto attendance, so someone's pressed 1 to speak to accounts, I would personally like to know how many calls are coming into accounts on a daily, monthly, weekly basis, how many we're answering, how long they wait. You can't get that out of the box, which frustrated me when I first set it up. You can with the bolt-on products, and they're quite easy to set up and relatively inexpensive. So it's worth just going through the bigger questions and going on the journey of what do you need it to do as your business communication system and your complex routing. So I was mentioning about the disaster recovery capability, where if you needed to point to something else when it's not available, again, Microsoft Direct are not going to give you that. If you work with direct routing and plug it into something else, it's going to work really well. You'll have a really nice solution where you're using Microsoft as you want to, as your employees want to, but you're connecting to a different system, you're connecting to something externally, you've got your backup when it's needed, and you've just got your various different options. Everybody likes a freebie. If you do want to trial it, we can set you up with 10 user licenses for 30 days, pending whatever Microsoft license you have available. So you will need the Microsoft license. If you don't have the skills internally to do the setup yourself, then there will be an admin charge to do the setup. However, if you do have the skills, set you up with a 30-day free license for up to 10 users. And yeah, it's as simple as that. We've done quite a few of these. This could be one where you might want to bolt it to your existing system and say, right, Mr. Director, you've said that you'd like this. Here you go, here's this. Try it for 30 days. NGC have set it up for you. Let me know what you think. If you want to crack on with it, then it's just a case of switching it to live and continuing the monthly billing. Yeah, so if anybody does want one, just give me a call, drop me an email. My details are on the next slide. And yeah, I hope I've not bored you all to death. If there are any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll probably hang around for a few minutes or until everybody gets bored and leaves. And if you'd like a chat or a follow-up afterwards, let me know. If I've completely missed the mark as to what you're expecting from the webinar, send me an email. We can have a call. I can answer some specific questions for you. But if you've got anything now, pop it in there. We'll go through them, and chances are people are asking similar questions. But other than that, I would thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. We've got a couple of people typing now, so I'll hang around. You're welcome, Amanda. And Mike, yeah, no problem at all. Just send me an email. We can have a call.